to produce, to maximize the value of production. So the country produced at a point where the PPF, the production possibility frontier, is changing to ISO value line. So we're going to look at the graph on the next page. So here we go. So this is the PPF. Okay. The red line is the PPF. And this straight downward sloping line is the ISO value line. So this ISO value line is basically the price ratio between food and clothes. Okay, clothes and food. Sorry. Okay, I give you like maybe 5 seconds to just go over the labels and go over the details of the graph before we talk about it. If I jump right into it, then you might not be able to really follow it. So I'll just give you one moment to digest. So on the y-axis, we have food production. On the x-axis, we have clothes production, QC. Okay. And economy, food production possibility frontier is PT. So PT is the indication for this red curve. We'll produce at Q. Here, Q is the tangent point. It's the point where they touch. There's only one point. There is only one point on the graph. There will be intersection. So this indicates for the highest possible ISO value line. Okay. All right. So what does that really mean on this graph? Let's take a look at that. Okay. Let's take a look at it. Okay. So first of all, have you go through PPF in the previous class? You understand what is PPF, right? Production possibility frontier. Let me see. Please let me know, okay? So if you know PPF, if you don't, then I will come back to it and then I'll show you one more time. Okay, do I take it as a no or yes? Let me know, don't be shy. Did you learn PPF before? And you might have a question, why it's shaped like this, not like a straight line or something. Should I go through the whole thing? Like, let me know. I'm trying to see your response. Like, you can, if you feel shy to talk about it using your mic, you can let me know on the chat room. Just type me something. You can type something on that. I'll have to see your answers to see what I should do. A little bit. Okay. So we know that the ISO value line is basically just the price differences between these two goods, the price ratio, one over the other. And then when you look at this red curve, which is the PPF, basically it's a trade-off between the production of these two goods. Okay. So for example, if you're looking at this point, all right, at this point here, if you look at my pointer, I'm pointing at the somewhere here. So basically here means that if you want to increase the production, if you put the whole country's resource, including capital, labor, and everything else, and direct them at the production of clothes, you can produce this much clothes. Okay. And then if you want to switch, at this point, if you want to suddenly switch, maybe we need some food production as well. Then you may have to give up some of the resources which you allocated in the production of clothes and shift them to the production of food. Then you're gonna have some production of food possible as you move along the curve here, right? You give up a little bit of clothes, you're gonna have a lot of food production. At this point, you give up some clothes. When I say give up, means like if you move from this point to suppose this point, right? You give up this much of clothes to gain this much of food. So when we are moving to another extreme, suppose here, we're gonna give up a lot of clothes. Like from here to here. You see there's so many amount of clothes you have to give up in order to gain a little bit of food production. So the idea is simple here because of diminishing return to capital, labor, or factors. So there are given your endowment or technology, right? Your technology is some of them are good at making something and not for everything. So when you are allocating every resources to one production, you may not really fully utilize your technology or your machinery, your capital, your endowment, your factors for that production. Right? Maybe some of them are good at the other things. So if you release them to making the wrong thing to the right thing, the productions may increase for clothes. The same is true for food production too. And some of these machineries or skills or factors endowments are good at making clothes, but if you're allocating them all to food production, they might be not very efficient, right? So as a result, this may not be so this is the whole point why this curve is a bell shape. It's not like it's a concave, it's a curve shape. You see here, it's not a straight line because there's not one-to-one trade-off. At some point, you have to trade off more for something little. At some point, you will you will trade off little for a lot more. So this is the idea. So when we are thinking about how much we should trade off, we don't know, right? So we know that uh, think about it. Suppose you and me are the workers in the country, right? I'm good at making clothes, and you are good at making uh, pineapple. So you grow pineapple, I make clothes. Uh, Now, if you want to produce pineapple for the whole country, right? You have to ask me to go to the field to work to grow pineapple, but which I'm not really good at growing pineapple, right? So the more resources you allocate to production, it might not work perfect because I'm not like that fast to grow pineapple. So this is the idea. Okay. So now, given that we know there's so many people in the country and they produce different things, and then you may be asking, so how much people we should allocate to different productions, pineapple or clothes? We do not know, but there's something we can take, which is the price. When we study how much we produce, how much we grow, like when you're looking around, right, how much we should make, you are asking these questions, and it depends on how much are the prices, how much the price are, how different the price are. So so when you are looking at the price, we got this price ratio, right? This ISO value line, which is the trade-off. So we are talking about the production trade-off between food and clothes. Then we are looking at here, this ISO value line is the value trade-off, which when we talk about value, right, which is reflected by the price, because the price of the product reflects the value of the product, how much we we value the two different products. Price of pineapple, price of clothes, is reflecting how much we think they value. So now we get the value out and then put a ratio to it. Then we got this ISO value line. And this ISO value line will, if you shift around the ISO value line, there will be a point that will intersect, that will tangent to the PPF. And this is where we should set our out of the nation to maximize the value of our production. Okay, so this is the whole idea of this what determines the economy's output. Okay, any questions to it? No? You sure? You serious? You don't have any questions? Okay, perfect. I like to hear that. You know, there's at least some feedback information that I know what to do. So I hate to see if there's silence in the class because I don't know what to do, you know. Either you can turn on your camera so at least I can see your face reaction to judge what I should do. Shall I move on or shall I just go back to discuss more? And if your face show a bit confusion, maybe I can discuss that a little bit more. And if you are happy with you know, shiny eyes and I think you might be okay, no problem. So just let me know, you show you say something on the chat room to show me your feeling or your understanding. It's nothing wrong, I just need some information to decide what to do. Okay, if we all agree there's no problem on this slide, then I'll move on. All right, production probability and relative supply, we continue. So relative price and relative supply, this is the what we have just shown, right? The relative supply is the PPF, which is the production of a good relative to another good. So together, both supply and price will have this determination effect on the output, right? An increase in the price of clothes relative to food. So imagine at some point there is a change in the price. Suppose the price of clothes, PC, goes up. Okay, the price of clothes become more expensive. So the relative price will become higher since we have this PC on the nominator, right, on top. So when PC goes up, the ratio will go up. That will make the ISO value line steeper. Why is it steeper? Because it's negative, right? You have a negative side there. So when the ratio is higher, so this is PC over PF. When PC over PF is higher, given a negative sign, this line will become steeper like this, like around here. Right? What it means is that when you have a steeper line, that means, can you imagine there will be a steeper line here? I don't, because I don't have my iPad here, I cannot draw a line. Maybe I can draw a line. See if there's some pencil. Oh yeah. Okay, here. Okay, I can do it. So I will try to. So because this is it's a negative, and if the ratio is higher, then you might have another line like this. right? You might have another line like this. Of course, there's a median infinite number of lines like this slope. My drawing is not the best, but try to imagine they are all parallel. It doesn't look perfect parallel, but I'm trying to draw parallel lines here. So there are millions of different lines there, but they all have the same slope. There's only one line that will be tangent to the PPF. There is change in price, but there's no change in technology. There's no change in production. There's no change in whatsoever on this red line. So we don't have anything changed on the red curve, but we have change in this ISO value line. And there's only one line among this infinite number of lines that will be tangent to the PVF. And this tangent point will be the new level of output of this nation that maximize, the value of the output of the country. Okay, let me remove all this. This is a bottom that I can do it. Or clear or join. Okay, let's move on. Is it a shortcut to that? So that I don't have to click every time? No, it looks like I have to click every time, which is not perfectly convenient. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the software engineer may have to think about it. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, so this is what I was just talking about. So production shift from point Q1 to point Q2. I didn't draw the Q on the graph, but you can imagine there's a new Q2. Maybe here. Oh yeah, so we have this new QC2 as compared to the QC1. So when there's a steeper, when you have a steeper ISO value line, then there will be a new tangent point to the PVF, and that will determine the new level of output. So we have this new level of output as QC2. Okay. And the result is the supply of clothes relative to food, QC over QF, rises. The reason is very simple, right? So you have, so suppose we are in the country and we have these clothes productions and food productions, right? And then we look at the price. We look at the price means the price ratio means that we look at the value. How do these two goods compare to each other? And then we'll decide how much our output will be to maximize our value, our money, right? Our whatever you call it, right? And then when there's a price change, suppose the clothes become more expensive, and we know that, wow, the clothes is more expensive, we should produce more. So relatively speaking, in the country, when we observe a price of clothes become more expensive, we would produce more clothes relative to food, right? If we have people, right, we have a limited amount of people, and then we are working in two factories. One is making food, one is making clothes. When we see the price of clothes is more expensive, then we're gonna ask people coming over, even though they are not so good at producing clothes, but hey, look, the price of clothes is more expensive. Come over and work to make clothes. Okay? And some of them will come over to the clothes factory and start making clothes. So the output of clothes and food ratio will QC over QF will rise because the production of clothes will be higher. And you might ask the question, why not everyone coming over? Why not everyone coming over, right? To make clothes if clothes is more expensive? No, not really, because as you see that if you look at the red curve, the PPF, as we are moving to the extreme production of clothes, you have to give up so much food right? You have give up so much food. The cost of this give up is gonna be too expensive if everyone is coming over to make clothes. So we are still trying to maximize the trade-off to be it's more like the cost and benefit analysis, right? We try to balance out. We are trying to look at the benefit of moving to closed productions and the cost of moving to closed productions. And we just equalize the benefit and cost so that so that we maximize the value of the output. Okay, and yeah, so we are here. So we're gonna talk about okay. So why not? I'm not. I'm not be able. I don't think I can finish this slide within 30 seconds. So maybe we will. Oh no, we have 2 minutes. Okay, let's try to do it. So in panel A, so there's two panel. Panel A, let's spend 20 seconds to look at the graph. So it's better to look at the. It's better to just take a look at the graph first before we do anything because it's better, it's easier if you familiar yourself with the labels and stuff. Oh, okay. The camera is working. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, maybe. Okay. All right. So where we are now? Yeah. So here, when we have the price of clothes increases, and we have this new tangent point, which is determined by the new ISO value curve, and then Q2 here indicate there will be more production of clothes relative to food. And on the panel B here, which is the relative supply curve, R means relative, S means supply, so we have a relative supply. So basically, when you look at very normal graph like this, you have y-axis and x-axis. Usually, it indicates the quantity of one product, and the price of one product. Now, this graph is different. We have two goods that is plotted into the graph, and the way we plot them is to find the relative, the ratio of these two goods. So this is not just clothes, this is not just food, it's the ratio of these two goods. Okay, QP over QF. Okay, so since the price, so this is the idea, right? So when the price is higher, the supply of that good is higher. So they also reflect and is consistent to the very fundamental idea of supply and demand, right? Supply is an upward sloping curve, which is like going up as price is higher. So when the price level is higher, then the supply of this goods will be higher. Now, when the price ratio is higher, same idea, the output ratio will be higher. So these 2 points indicate or that will give us the relative supply curve. Okay. All right. So I guess now is a good timing to take a break. So I will come back in about 10 minutes